Military stalemate Hezbollah Amal LCPPF LPGC Moshe Katsav Ehud Olmert Amir Peretz Dan Halitz Moshe Kaplinski Udi Adam Eliezer Skadi Hassan Nasrallah Ahmad Mughniye Qasem Soleimani Nabi Berri Khaled Haddadi Israel Defense Forces killed 121 killed wounded 1,244 20 tanks damaged beyond repair 1 helicopter shot down 3 lost in accidents 1 warship damaged Israeli civilians killed 44 wounded 1,384 Hezbollah fighters killed 250 is less than or equal to 500 600 to 800 captured 4 fighters Amal militia 17 dead LCP militia 12 dead PFLPGC militia 2 dead IRGC approximately equals 6 to 9 dead Lebanese armed forces and internal security forces 43 dead Lebanese civilians and foreign civilians dead Asterisk 1191 1109 1191 wounded 4409 foreign civilians 51 dead 25 wounded evacuations conflicts the 2006 Lebanon War also called the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah War and known in Lebanon as the July War. The conflict started on the 12th of July 2006 and continued until a United Nations brokered ceasefire went into effect in the morning on 14 August 2006, though it formally ended on the 8th of September 2006 when Israel lifted its naval blockade of Lebanon. Due to unprecedented Iranian military support to Hezbollah before and during the war, some consider it the first round of the Iran-Israel proxy conflict, rather than a continuation of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The conflict was precipitated by the 2006 Hezbollah cross-border raid. On the 12th of July 2006, Hezbollah fighters fired rockets at Israeli border towns as a diversion for an anti-tank missile attack on 2 armored Humvees patrolling the Israeli side of the border fence. The ambush left 3 soldiers dead. 2 Israeli soldiers were abducted and taken by Hezbollah to Lebanon. 5 more were killed in Lebanon. In a failed rescue attempt, Hezbollah demanded the release of Lebanese prisoners held by Israel in exchange for the release of the abducted soldiers. Israel refused and responded with airstrikes and artillery fire on targets in Lebanon. Israel attacked both Hezbollah military targets and Lebanese civilian infrastructure, including Beirut's Rafik Hariri International Airport. The IDF launched a ground invasion of southern Lebanon. Israel also imposed an air and naval blockade. Hezbollah then launched more rockets into northern Israel and engaged the IDF in guerrilla warfare from hardened positions. The conflict is believed to have killed between 1,191 and 1,300 Lebanese people and 165 Israelis. It severely damaged Lebanese civil infrastructure and displaced approximately 1 million Lebanese and 300,000 to 500,000 Israelis. On the 11th of August 2006, the United Nations Security Council unanimously approved United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 in an effort to end the hostilities. The resolution, which was approved by both the Lebanese and Israeli governments the following days, called for disarmament of Hezbollah, for withdrawal of the IDF from Lebanon, and for the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces and an enlarged United Nations interim force in Lebanon in the south. UNIFIL was given an expanded mandate, including the ability to use force to ensure that their area of operations was not used for hostile activities, and to resist attempts by force to prevent them from discharging their duties. The Lebanese army began deploying in southern Lebanon on the 17th of August 2006. The blockade was lifted on the 8th of September 2006. On the 1st of October 2006, most Israeli troops withdrew from Lebanon, although the last of the troops continued to occupy the border-straddling village of Ghaya. In the time since the enactment of UNSCR 1701, both the Lebanese government and UNIFIL have stated that they will not disarm Hezbollah. The remains of the 2 captured soldiers, whose fates were unknown, were returned to Israel on the 16th of July 2008 as part of a prisoner exchange. Cross-border attacks from southern Lebanon into Israel by the Palestine Liberation Organization, dated as far back as 1968, and followed the Six-Day War. The area became a significant base for attacks following the arrival of the PLO leadership and its Fatah Brigade following their 1971 expulsion from Jordan. Starting about this time, increasing demographic tensions related to the Lebanese National Pact, which had divided governmental powers among religious groups throughout the country 30 years previously, began running high and led in part to the Lebanese Civil War. Concurrently, Syria began a 29-year military occupation in 1976. Israel's 1978 invasion of Lebanon failed to stem the Palestinian attacks in the long run. But Israel invaded Lebanon again in 1982 and forcibly expelled the PLO. Israel withdrew to a borderland buffer zone in southern Lebanon, held with the aid of proxy militants in the South Lebanon Army. The invasion also led to the conception of a new Shia militant group, which in 1985 established itself politically under the name Hezbollah, and declared an armed struggle to end the Israeli occupation of Lebanese territory. When the Lebanese Civil War ended and other warring factio